everybody. It's good to see you all. It's good to see so many people here to enjoy our summer exhibitions. My name is Daniela. I'm the curator here at the Dunedin Arts Center. I'd like to thank all of you for coming tonight. I am so excited to share these summer exhibitions with you. We have 4 very cool textile shows. First, I'd like to thank Catherine Bergman. She did some super heavy lifting, making these shows happen before I even arrived here. I want to thank our sponsors for making these exhibitions, this talk, something that we're able to share with all of you. And just to share a little bit about the exhibitions before we get started. So we have 4 exhibitions that we're opening tonight. This one that we're in the middle of, this is one half of one exhibition. It's Fierce Planets. It's a collaboration between SAQA, which is the Studio Art Quilt Associates, and Johns Hopkins University. It is artists collaborating with scientists, which is just a natural, amazing partnership. 2 different types of people exploring the universe together. These quilts are about space, planetary science, and earth science. So definitely feel free to take a look at all of these here, and it's in the gallery as well. We also have Double Vision, which is a 2-person exhibition between Wendy Bruce and Meg Pierce, and we're going to be speaking to them this evening. We also have an exhibition, solo exhibition, with Deborah Snider. It's in the Rossi Gallery. We're going to be speaking more about her in just a moment. Some amazing art quilts from her. And here in the Media Ground Gallery, we have a solo exhibition of Rena Wood. She does some abstract embroidery, and it's beautiful. You saw it on your way in here this evening. So definitely feel free to explore, come back and explore some more when it's nice and quiet in here too. But I also want to thank some people here for making this a possibility. First of all, the team here at DFAC is amazing, as all of you know. Love working with all of them. I want to mention specifically Director Andrea Knowles, but also the team that helped me put this together, especially James Bowers. Is he here somewhere? Okay, James Bowers. He helped install all this. He's an amazing. And our intern, Taylor Quinn, she's been amazing as well, helping get all this together too. And now our artists. First up, we have Wendy Bruce. Wendy, she grew up near Washington, D.C. She went on to earn multiple degrees from Virginia Commonwealth University with a focus on painting and fiber art. Wendy's work has been recognized and featured in Fiber Art Now, Excellence in Fibers 9, showcasing mastery in the medium. Her art's been exhibited in galleries and museums across the country, including notable institutions such as the Atlanta Museum of Art and the Tampa Museum of Art. And she's now based here in Largo, Florida. We also have Meg Pierce. She grew up in the Buffalo area. She's a graduate of the College of U of Shaw. She went on to gain a master's in art and art education from Columbia University in New York, an MFA in painting from the Pratt Institute in Brooklyn. She was a teacher of art at the Harris School in New Hyde Park on Long Island from 1969 through 2001. She's shown widely in the New York area, as well as recently at Florida Craft Arts in St. Petersburg, Spaces in Sarasota, Selby Gallery, Ringling College of Art and Design in Sarasota as well, Harmony Gallery, Sarasota, and most recently here at DFAC. She now lives and works in Sarasota, Florida. And finally we have Deborah Snider. She was born in Detroit, Michigan. She has had quite a career teaching visual art to all age levels, working as an arts administrator, an exhibitions curator, events manager, overseeing the diverse arts programs for communities and schools, working in retail marketing and banking. She's lived in Michigan, Florida, Colorado, Oregon, Utah, Washington, and New Mexico. And I need to mention, she was the Dunedin Fine Arts Center's very first director as well.
So 50 years ago.
So obviously she did something right, because we're still here, and appropriately her exhibition is titled Full Circle. So we're very happy to have her back again as an artist now. And so we're going to be asking questions. We might leave some time open for a few questions from the audience as well after that. But we'll go ahead and get started. So this summer exhibition is dominated by textiles. All 4 exhibitions are about textiles, fiber, cloth. I wanted to ask each of you, how did you come to this medium and why did you stick with it? It feels like artists are often shepherded towards painting. So how did you come to textiles and why haven't you left it?
I'll go first. I came to textiles. My mom worked for the federal government in Washington, D.C., and she had 3 children, but there was 1 income. And so she would sew all of our clothes. And so one day when I turned 15, she decided it was my turn to run the sewing machine. However, I had a lead foot. So I wasn't allowed to run the sewing machine for a few more years again after that. But she did get me introduced to working in textiles. And then I was fortunate enough to attend Virginia Commonwealth, where I took a fiber art class. And once I was in the fiber art class, I never looked back. I just fell in love with it because I found that with thread and with textiles, you have a unique voice that maybe you don't have with a painting. For example, I noticed when people are looking at works in this exhibition or throughout the gallery, people walk closer and they want to get right up on the work. And there's an intimacy created that you sometimes see with paintings, but you don't always see that. So I find that thread really has a unique voice. And I stick with it because it's meditative. And my husband will tell you that if I don't do it for a few days, I get a little cranky.
Well, my history is pretty long because I've been at this for such a long time. I came to textiles at the end of, not the end, but the culmination of everything I want to express. I came up in the 60s and the 70s in New York, and of course we have the abstract expressionists, you have a lot of political art, and all of this art didn't really touch my soul at all, but I knew I wanted to be an artist. When I started off as painting, I went through many phases, but I ended up with textiles because of the feelings I've always had for older things, objects that have a history, a softness, a vulnerability, which is like the antithesis of a lot of other art that I've encountered. So I kind of found a home in it. And I use the indigo because I can be very, very tight, very tight and precise. And I like to do that. But there's a spontaneity that dyeing, especially the shibori, they're nice surprises that happen. So I like that as well. But I kind of also love preserving older things. And people really do respond to it on an emotional level. And whatever people will respond, I like, but I'm going to keep on doing it as long as I can.
50 years ago when I started here, my name was Debbie Eckstein, and then I started telling my students that if you call me Debbie, you get an F. So I have been Deb ever since that, because I introduced myself as Deborah, and somebody would turn right around and say, well, Barbara, how are you doing? Same number of syllables. I actually got started right here. I took a seminal Indian patchwork class, and it just thrilled me. It's so much easier than you think it is. And then I started doing traditional, small pieces, but traditional quilting, pillows and things. I've never done a bedspread, never will. But then I ended up in Grand Junction, Colorado, and I went to a work workshop on watercolor quilts. Many of you will know watercolor quilts. And I was working on mine, and these two women came over to me and said, do you know that we have an art quilt association of Western Colorado called SAQA? So I joined that immediately and learned from many masters in the Art Quilt Association how to do free motion stitching. And I mean, it was like I just took off like Wendy and Meg did and never looked back. But I'm kind of schizophrenic because I also like to draw. I like to do mixed media collage. So if you want to take a look at my website, I've got a bunch of my business cards and you can pick one up. So if I get tired of quilting, then I go, okay, I'm going to draw. You know, how we are. So as a prepared art teacher, though, they make you learn everything, how to teach everything. And when I graduated, I felt like, well, I gotta keep doing that. And that was making me crazy because I knew that I would never get good at any one thing if I tried to do it all. So I was a weaver for a while when I was living in Florida, doing felt applique on my weavings. So I've always had this love affair with, excuse me, fabrics and fiber. And so even when I stopped weaving, when I draw, I will frequently include drawing fibers in the work that I do, so I can't get away from it.
Very nice. So, unlike painting, textiles are something that all of us come into contact with every single day. It's something we're born into. And one of you told me, I think it was you, Meg, that it's something that we're born into that literally moments after we're born, we're wrapped up in textiles, in a blanket. It's something we have from just moments after we're born. So knowing that it's something we use every day, does this influence your work? For all of you, does it influence your work, the fact that you and your viewers are both so familiar with the medium?
I think that's the basis of it, really. That kind of response that we have to human response.
Well, as I said before, thread is alluring. I don't know about you, but whenever I see a lot of paint chips at the Home Depot, I'll lined up, I get really excited, and it's the same way for thread. If I go to a place that has thread, that she's like, I can't contain myself. It's alluring. And thread is resilient, and my work really is about resiliency because this shirt, for example, that I'm wearing, I've probably washed it 30 times. It's still holding together. So thread is tough. And I think that's just a great metaphor for my work. And I think it's just uniquely suited to really communicate a message of resiliency.
Well, you should see my stash. Oh my gosh, I have pared it down. I have given so much away since I retired from teaching. But I love pattern, and I love putting patterns together in unusual ways and recontextualizing and doing fussy cutting. I was such a paper doll lover when I was little, and I loved to cut out fabrics and put them together in unique ways that tell a new kind of story. But it's just, it's a love affair, it's a passion that we all have with sharing our love of that tactile quality and, oh no, that's me. That's all. I'll let my husband.
Put on speakerphone. Something interesting with quilts is that isn't there something left over with the thought that we cover ourselves with them? Does that idea ever come to mind that we clothe ourselves with a lot of textiles that we use, and we mend things with the thread that we use, or we cover ourselves with quilts, with blankets? Does this like closeness to our bodies ever come to mind when we're working? No. I have a follow-up question for Because I had a feeling that you would say that. Let me ask you now, Mike, because your work is comes a lot on social, political issues, on social justice issues. When we think of art that does that, quilting is not often the first one that comes to mind. Does that feel like a natural fit for you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love theme challenges, and with every art quilt group that I have been in, we love to challenge each other with a word or a thought. In Grand Junction, the opera group would come up with themes every year, and one of them was atrocities, women, and war. Well, you can't get away from having some kind of social commentary when you have that kind of theme. I love women's issues. I love social justice. When I did my MFA, I had to come up with 3 different prongs to my program. And one of them, of course, was putting my artwork at the center of my practice, informed by my spirituality, informed by working with humanitarian agencies around the world. So it was just a natural step to continue working with saving the bees and the stereotypes that go with being a woman, whether you're a saint or a sweetie. You will see some quilts of mine about saints and sweeties, and trying to lure people in with a little bit of humor, and if they spend any time with the work, maybe they will get a deeper message out of it.
And so, kind of going back to what we were mentioning, textiles used every day, in everyday life, as well as art here on the gallery walls. The fact that textiles can be used for very daily practical purposes, there's the dichotomy of fine art and there's craft art. First of all, I always ask textile artists, does this annoy you? And do you ever feel like your art is lumped in with one that you don't feel like is a good fit?
Well, years ago, people working with thread and fabric were over there. People working in ceramics were over there. And there was painting, there was sculpture. And then as time went on, things became more interdisciplinary. And I think that's where craft started getting its traction. But it did not have the status that it has today. Last December, when I was at Art Basel in Miami, there were so many fiber artists. There was Basil Kincaid, with these super large, incredibly full quilts that go way up in the ceiling and all the way down to the floor. And there's Visa Butler and Michelina Thomas. So now, we don't even question it. It's just that so many artists, even ones that I know here working in this county, are moving towards textiles or working with thread or just those kind of ideas. And so I consider myself a fine artist. I work with craft materials, and there's fun craft, and I'm somewhere on this line or that line, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Well, ditto. But also, I think that it's kind of amazing that people, women mostly, I would say, have kept this medium, and it's evolved into something that they will do, whether they are recognized or not. You go to the MoMA, there's a show there now on abstraction and art, and you go way back to Black Mountain Group and Albers, and women have always kept the faith. And fine art, craft, old
I love to tell my students that if you're an artist, you also need craftsmanship. And if you are a crafter, you also need artisanship. So I don't really like that distinction at all, because I think we are blending. Certainly art quilts are bridging that gap, and we are increasingly recognized as the artists that they are.
And so that brings me to a question I was having a hard time articulating, so I didn't write it down. But it's swimming in my mind. Meg, you mentioned that women have largely kept this craft and art alive. We had Akiko Kotani recently. She is an amazing installation artist, and she mentioned a big part of why she does what she does, which is very conceptual crocheting. That is because it's women's work, as she called it. Now, Deb, you mentioned women specifically artist statements, so did you, Meg. And there's 3 women up here as well. How does that figure into your medium specifically? Because there's no separating the two, is there? I guess the heritage that women have played in both art and craft of working with textiles.
I'm not sure what the question is.
So how does I guess being a woman and the fact that the long history behind of women working in textiles work into your art, or do you feel like it doesn't?
Well, I will say that I got in some deep water in college for thinking that women were the ones doing the textiles. But many years ago, the people who did the embroidery were men.
Very interesting.
Yes. So after that, I never mentioned it.
What would this get explained to you?
My professor made it abundantly clear.
I hate to say typical.
And some of the finest art quilters are men.
Well, women had to do it. It's kind of sub rosa, you know, on quiet in the evenings, spare time. So there's a quality of preservation in that and nurturing, just even in doing it and preserving, mending. So I mean, it is a very feminine thing, and it's where expression has been found, because women have not been able to be in the academy.
So Meg, I have a question about your work specifically. If you look in the Gamble Gallery, you have actual dresses that you've used a lot in your work, and you also have images of dresses. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit about that, about why it's important to you incorporating these.
Well, while I was kind of exiled in the land of abstraction and all these other things that I went through, I always liked old things, and I collected fabrics, and mainly garments like little bonnets, which is like so diametrically opposed to the raw power of abstraction. But I've always had these things, and then my grandmother left me her collection of handkerchiefs. I mean, 50 handkerchiefs at least. And I kept these things. And so I think keeping those and taking people's, some of those are christening gowns, which used to be a huge event in a family's life, the christening. And it's just, I feel there's the soul in them that attaches. And they're kind of falling apart. So it's a good way of preserving them.
Yes, thank you. They look very beautiful, and that's exactly what I got. Seeing them turn slowly in the air and the shadows. Very much. Thank you very much. Wendy, as we were even just installing, I got questions over and again about the way your work was created. It's so detailed and meticulously made, and your medium line is the shortest in the exhibition, just for that. I was wondering if you can explain a little bit about how you actually created your work.
Well, I think people will be surprised to know that I don't pre-plan anything. Because when I pre-plan, I find that it looks contrived, and I end up cutting it up and starting all over again anyway. So I come out far ahead if I don't pre-plan. I draw with my sewing machine, and lately what I've I've been doing, I work on a material called solvy. It's like a plastic material that is water soluble. And what I've been doing lately is just sewing random black lines with my sewing machine. I'm drawing with thread. And as the lines intersect and they become shapes, I find images. And I work those images forward in color. And then one image will lead to another. And then after that, along the way, a title will come to me or a theme, and that will tell me what's next. Or I'll have a dream in the morning when I'm first waking up, and it will tell me what image needs to be included. And once I have the images integrated enough in thread so that I'm sure that it won't fall apart when I wash this plastic material away, then I go ahead and dissolve it, and I'm left with a sheet of thread. It looks something like this. This is one of those pieces that was contrived, and I haven't figured out what to do with it. I find I do better when I do it pre-planned. But basically, I'm just working with that material, and a lot of cutting and mending takes place. And the other question people want to know is, how long did that take you? So in other words, if it took 6 months, it's probably more valuable than if it took a month. I don't know. But some of the small pieces can take 6 months. It depends on how well the piece cooperates. But some of the larger pieces can take up to 6 months. But like I said, that's my meditation. And I just have to do it. So I've just been fortunate that this experiment worked out.
And so when it comes to painting, because we can be expressive and just lay the paint on and be intuitive and spontaneous, can you still do that working with thread and textiles and fabrics?
Yes, I am basically using thread like paint because I have a degree in painting also. So to me, I'm just using paint. I'm using thread just like I would use paint.
And what about you two? Do you find yourself being able to be spontaneous with your work?
Yes. Yes, I think all of the mediums are expressing you at different points. And even now, I like doing drawing, a lot of colored pencil. But yes.
I have had to become a student of math. When I was in school, I hated math. I barely squeaked by algebra, but I loved geometry for the visual aspect of geometry. And so wanting to do mandala repetitive shapes and designs, there is a certain planning that goes into it. But if you do all the planning in your head first, by the time you get to actually working on the objects, it's boring because it's just mechanical at that point. So I always leave room for happy accidents. But yeah, I've had to get along with math.
All right, so I'd like to know if all of you, and if you have any questions for artists up here, that's all of my questions. So we've got time for a few from the audience. If you have any questions for our artists?
I got a question.
Yes?
So I'd like to know, what is the future of quilting art? It looks like I've been to a few quilting art shows. And it's the baby boomer generation. What is the future of it?
Yeah. What do I would say the creative even, what do you feel like is the future for your respective mediums?
Oh, I find when I travel, and I travel to go to different museums and galleries, I find that a lot of people are drawn to the methods that are used by textile artists. And so I think that as I travel around, I see more and more artists at the museum level creating using the same techniques.
I agree.
I think the Studio Art Quilt Association is doing epic work in educating people about art quilting. And I credit quilters and also scrapbookers for bringing us lots of materials that we never would have thought about including in art quilting and vice versa. And It's just a burgeoning field, thanks to SAQA and a lot of museums that are stepping up and saying, you know, there's something to this that people are really liking.
Very nice. Well,
I'm a long time quilter from way back when, and I only hand quilt. So I've asked you, do you hand quilt, machine quilt, both, and what's your preference?
and quilt, machine quilt, preference.
So I do not have a long arm, and people are kind of amazed by that. It's all domestic sewing machine for the free motion quilting, but I do a lot of hand work also. I love hand sewing. Unfortunately, as I'm getting older, my thumbs are starting to get out on me, and it's harder to do that. But I'm gonna persist, just like Meg said, as long as I can.
I have a question for the lady, you know, who does the, you do the christening outfits, yeah. You do that in indigo shibori stuff?
Yes, yes.
Where did you learn to do that?
Oh, YouTube. I'm not precious about the dyeing, you know, like the indigo that I use is probably not that natural. I don't have really a time to study the natural dyes. I wish I did. But I find on YouTube, unbelievably, you can learn almost any kind of craft, and especially,
So what type of a dye do you use?
I use indigo dye,
Oh,
but
an indigo dye.
I don't go totally natural with it. Sometimes I use a compound, but it's the same compound.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I have a question about fast fashion. How do you feel about fast fashion and the way that it's disrupting the textile industry, and are you concerned about that?
Oh, fashion.
Particularly fast fashion, like fashionable,
Yes, yes.
clothes that are intended to be disposed of kind of quickly. Resilience and clothing inspire
I want to say that last year in New York, at what used to be called the Craft Museum, that whole show was about disposable dresses. Yeah, that whole show last year was about disposable dresses. And I never forgot that because I was thinking, what would my mom think? These, because she spent so much time doing this work. So I don't know, that really struck me to see that exhibition.
What were they made of, papers?
They're made out of paper, you wear them one time and you're done with it. I don't know if I would wear a paper dress, I would be a little concerned.
question.
Thank you so much for this. Fiber's all of our first love, so thank you for being here. I love applique, needle turn, good old fashioned needle turn applique, but I also like to think out of the box and go to other places for patterns. I mean, I go into woodworking or tiles, ceramic tiles, or other cultures, and I try to pull from there as to what inspires me. So, where do you go other than art and art books and art categories? Where else do you go for your inspiration?
So often for me, it will be an overheard conversation, words put together that I've never heard before, and it's like, oh, there's a title or something. Everything's inspiration for me. I love seeing other people's artwork. I love to, every time Arlene and I are here, we're going down to Sarasota tomorrow and St. Pete on Sunday because we're just hungry for museums that we haven't seen in a while. And we both had seen the early Dolly Museum and we haven't seen the new one, so we're just overloaded with, I love to see new things that I haven't seen before. It's all inspiration for me.
The fabrics that I recycle, inspired me. You know, it's a collage. A lot of what I do is a collage. So I like putting it together. It comes to me. I'm bitten.
So I am inspired by books that I read. I'm inspired by music. I'm inspired by the other artists in this incredible artist community that we have in the Tampa Bay area.
Do you have any other questions?
This can be hard to phrase because of how we started. But let me try. We always approach art and the question of women's art from the idea of a past and an occupation or a limitation or a transformation of something that we had to do. But this whole generation, not this generation, I mean, the generation that began when women began to emerge as people, as persons, dare I say, with equality, and in the most basic way, like, we're human beings, okay? And we're up against it now. We have less. For those of us that are older and have lived this period, I was talking to some of the most incredible women with Debbie's friends here this afternoon, and when you failed the class. And I said, I feel like I've been living in a desert for the last couple of years. I haven't heard words that made sense to me since I retired. And where's the newness? And they started talking about their lives and their energies and their stories. And I said to them, well, okay, but if you don't tell your stories now, they're not even going to be there to erase. So where, all of you that I talk to, don't start from there. You, Debbie was a student of mine, my first student, and then her first student today. We both knew her for 52 years. It's too cool. But they were never people that were stuck in a feminine whatever. That cliche never, ever, ever applied to them. They were always asking the question of, well, who am I and what now? And I sense that in all of you, that this is a primary instinctual and spiritual source. So I want to get back to you and say, what the hell are you doing now? And where are we going?
That's a good question.
So if I can take a moment of personal privilege, this is Dr. Barbara Kazanis from the University of South Florida. She was an art educator there, very visionary genius, who was not recognized and never given full power for what she brought to the field of art education. Barbara, we all owe you a debt of gratitude. And if I might just continue, 50 years ago, Mita Brown, some of you know Mita, she died way before her time. She was the inspiration and the vision behind the very first Dunedin Fine Arts and Cultural Center, which is what I was hired to direct. There's a beautiful plaque acknowledging her on the wall on the side. And I was working with David Shankweiler right over here, who was with the center for 20 years with Nancy McIntyre, professional and personal partners. David called me and asked if I would help write a history for the gala celebration in February, which was a great delight to work with you. In the 50 years of this art center, there have been 6 directors. So I was director for 8 years, And then one of my board members came in and said, you know, it's time we have a man in charge. And I was kind of used up anyway, so I went back into teaching. They hired a man, he stayed for a year. Put his feet up on the desk, you know, told everybody else what to do. Then they hired a woman who stayed for 2 years. Then they hired Nancy McIntyre and David. And I credit them with so much of the growth of this center, 20 years. And then I think immediately after Nancy was it Georgette? Georgianne. And now Andrea. Is she here? Andrea, our new director. So that's a pretty incredible legacy that in 50 years we've only had 6 directors. I do have a gift for the Art Center. So when I took over the place, which is no longer here, it was demolished when this building was built, which kind of hurts my heart a lot. 3,000 square feet. My total budget for the year was $17,900. $8,000 of that was my salary. So the rest of it was all whatever you can do. We built the membership from 60 people to 500 people in 8 years. We started the Trident Society, which is now the Sterling Society.
You were 24 when you started.
I was 24, now you know how old I am. And now it's 40,000 square feet with a budget of $3 million. I'm sorry I don't just to be on the ground floor of this place and looking at the community center and how everything has grown up. And it's such a gift to live in this area within walking distance of all of this and what you are doing, Danny. So when I retired, there was a wonderful painter named Helen Pearson. Some of you knew Helen very well. And she was a miniature artist as well. And when I left, she gave me a little miniature painting of the Art Center in its original form. And then one of my very, very favorite volunteers, who was volunteering before I was hired, Daphne Morse. Some of you will remember Daphne. When she left, Helen gave her a painting of the original Art Center. So because I have 2 of them, because when she passed, her family sent me the painting that Helen had given her, so I had 2. David wanted an image for the gala brochure, so I sent him this image, and that is on the front cover of the gala brochure. But I think the legacy of this place, because the building is gone, you need to have one of these paintings. We'll open it and then we'll pass it around so you can all see it. Oh boy. Yes, and the paper that I wrapped that in is Paula Nadelstern, who is kaleidoscope art quilter. That's her wrapping paper, so it's all symbolic, and I wrapped it with a fiber bow.
You would allow and indulge me. What a delight it is to have planned these shows and to see them come to fruition and to hear everyone's insights. It's just an honor. And also to not have had to do any other work. And all of that delay, it's going all the see them later. So I just wanted to chime in on a few topics that surfaced. And the first being that fiber art has arrived. It's been in Art News, it's been in Art in America. Fiber is the new painting. It's here to stay.
Let's see.
Okay, so Danny's gonna pass that around. But the other point being about the gender issue and craft versus fine art. Well, when I was first going to college, in my women's studies class that they're trying to do away with right now, we learned that the distinction between craft and fine art was that it was, women's work was considered craft. And if it was functional, so therefore the clothing, the ceramics, the pottery. And then when, of course, the university system was established and you could get a degree in fine art, only men could get fine art degrees, right? So that was part of that old system. All gone, thank God, but that's the history there. And then same for the Art Center. The Art Center has done fiber arts for 20 plus years, biannual fiber arts dedication, quilts that have gone into all kinds of other forays. And speaking of the gender balance, we had the tent makers of Cairo, all men. We had a show called Man-Made, so we did have our man quilters. But yes, the Art Center has a long history of honoring fiber arts. And I did want to say that I knew Debbie as a student when she was the first director. So this was really wonderful to be able to welcome you back. I also was, Nancy followed you, and I was hired by Nancy. Of course, I worked with David all those years. So I did want to ask you, what did you think of the place, how it's changed? So you've already answered that.
Wow.
Yeah, I wondered what it was like for you to come and see.
Well, and I understand that we have the architect here who designed both the first building and the current building. So this is our architect right here. Do you want to say anything?
Yes, there is one original wall standing, and it's right outside this gallery.
You're sending chills down my back. That wall right there?
Yes, the place to be.
It still lives!
Well, thank you, Catherine. We'll call it there. I want to thank each of our artists here tonight, Wendy, Meg, Deb. Thank you so much. Meg?
I just want to say thank you, Danny, for your extreme patience in this process, for Catherine for making it happen, for James who did the installs, and for Meg leading me and helping me. So I really appreciate that. So it's just been a dream come true. I want to say thank you.
Thanks. It's been a pleasure working with you. I want to thank all of you for coming tonight, for enjoying the exhibition, for your amazing questions. Maybe I'll let you guys run this next time. But amazing participation. We really love that. If you have any more questions, the artists are going to hang around for a bit throughout the galleries. So I'll put you guys on the spot. Come in, wish them. But definitely enjoy all the exhibitions. And thanks again for coming. We'll see you again next time.